This is BBC One for the South East. Now the news at 1 o'clock with Victoria Derbyshire and Natalie Graham.
Good afternoon and welcome to the BBC News at 1.
Oh my God, yeah!
Top grades for A-levels in England, Wales and Northern Ireland have reached a record high. Education Secretary Gavin Williamson says students deserve to be rewarded after more than a year of disruption.
This cohort of students have had to deal with a level of disruption that no one has ever seen before, not even during a world war as a result of this pandemic.
We'll bring you reaction from around the UK. Also in the news this lunchtime, a lawsuit is filed against Prince Andrew by a US woman who alleges she was trafficked to him by deceased paedophile Jeffrey Epstein and then sexually abused. The Prime Minister of Greece says sorry for failures in tackling wildfires which continue to burn across parts of the country. Could dementia be diagnosed in just one day? Scientists begin trials of an artificial intelligence system that could lead to that breakthrough. And Lionel Messi will join Paris Saint-Germain. He's on his way to the French capital right now.
And coming up on the BBC News channel, Moeen Ali is back in the England Test squad for the first time since February, ahead of their second test against India on Thursday.
Good afternoon. More A grades have been awarded for A-levels this year after exams were cancelled for a second year because of the pandemic. Nearly 45% of entries in England, Wales and Northern Ireland were awarded an A or A star. That's an all-time record and much, much higher than when exams were last held in 2019. Students' work was assessed and graded by their teachers in place of the exams. This year, no algorithm was used to moderate grades, after a backlash to last year's results led to a U-turn from the government. In Scotland, the pass rate for Highers, Advanced Highers and National Fives dropped slightly from last year after their second year of cancelled exams. Elaine Dunkley reports.
Oh my God, yeah!
Finally, relief in a year that has felt relentless. Grades that mark the end of uncertainty and the start of a new path.
Yes. Well done.
In January, traditional exams were scrapped and replaced with teacher-assessed grades.
I got distinction star, distinction and a B.
Moyes is happy with his results, but says there have been no easy options.
As students, we usually rely on our teachers for the answers, when we're stuck. But this time the teachers didn't have the answers straight away, and it was a learning experience for everyone. No one was prepared for this, but we had a really, really good experience, and our teachers have been really great in terms of being there for us, and not just in terms of our academics, but in terms of our mental health and making sure that they are giving us support.
With exams cancelled, ensuring fairness has been a challenge. Students have been assessed only on what they have been taught. The pandemic has also put pressure on teachers, who have had to provide evidence for every single grade awarded.
It's been a phenomenal amount of work. Every single student's grade has been looked at by at least 2 staff members, and then there's been a robust suite of internal and external quality assurance processes. For our students here, they've had 6 bouts of assessment under exam conditions, so they've had to sustain that performance level, as opposed to normally it's just a one-off performance on the day.
Top grades for A-level results in England, Wales and Northern Ireland have reached a record high, with 45% getting A star or A grades this year. It's the second year in a row that traditional exams have been cancelled and results have significantly increased. Compared to 2019, A stars and A's have risen by 75%.
We've already set out in the last academic year our moves to moving back to examination as a form of assessment. We also recognise that those students who will be looking at taking exams in 2022 will have had their education disrupted.
In Scotland, students completing Highers and Nationals were told their grades at the end of term and today had them confirmed. 230,000 BTEC students also received their Level 3 results.
I've got a high merit, which is actually pretty good.
With high numbers of students applying to universities and getting the grades, there is concern this could put pressure on places. We know from last year that universities and colleges were super flexible, so where they can expand capacity, that's exactly what they will be looking at doing. In terms of clearing, obviously for those who are looking at clearing, they can add a choice from 2 o'clock today, and there are plenty of courses, nearly 30,000 courses available to them.
I've got 3 A stars.
Oh my God, that's fantastic.
Back in Loughborough, these students are celebrating.
Just a massive, massive relief, because I've been pretty stressed, but we were really stressed the last sort of 30 minutes, because you just want to get it over and done with. But I'm really pleased that I've done well, and that it all feels worth it now.
They may not have sat traditional exams, but showing resilience throughout the pandemic has been one of the toughest tests. Elaine Dunkley, BBC News.
Let's talk now to correspondents around the UK. First to Hal Griffith, who's in Nantgarw.
Yes, well, the students coming to Coleg y Cymoedd here in Nantgarw today were seeing their results not for the first time. As they opened the envelope, it was confirmation of the results. They were given initially back in June and allowed to appeal if they weren't happy back then. In terms of what those results show, well, a record number of A stars and A's. In fact, in Wales, the proportion this year, 48% of entries at A star or A. Now, that's 6% up from last year, the class of 2020, which clearly also had difficulties during the pandemic, but a whopping 20% up on the last set of students to sit A-level exams in 2019. So that debate about grade inflation is live and active here. The Welsh Government say that they are certain that these teacher-assessed grades are valid and that they will stand the test of time. And asking everyone to remember what this cohort of students have been through. Speaking to the students, it's a point they make. They say the majority of their learning over the last 2 years was done online. They didn't have the advantage of face-to-face teaching for much of it, and so they hope that the class of 2021 will be remembered for their great achievement in a very tough time.
Good evening, Nelson.
Well, here in Northern Ireland, it's been a record-breaking year of A-level success. For the first time ever, more than half of all the entries have received top grades. Whatever it's...
Let's begin with the US economy, because the latest official figures...
More than half of the A-level results here have received top grades. More than 50%, 51% in fact, receiving A stars and or A's. At AS level 2, the picture extremely positive, 74% receiving A grades or B grades. So 25,000 pupils in this part of the UK have been picking up the results today, a number of them here at St Ronan's College in Lurgan, one of Northern Ireland's biggest schools. Pupils have been coming and going all morning. There's been a real sense of nervousness, yes, but also of excitement and joy whenever those envelopes have been opened. Many students also picking up their BTEC results. Those vocational qualifications have become a very common pathway to university. The Education Minister in the devolved government, Michelle McIlveen of the Democratic Unionist Party, has praised pupils' resilience, much is called these exceptional times, and she said the high grades awarded has reflected all their hard work over the course of these last 2 very difficult years.
Well, pupils already had their results here in Scotland. Today was the formal announcement. There were no exams. It all had been down to assessment that was graded by teachers. Now, what they were getting results for were the national 5s, which you take when you're around age 15, 16, and then the higher, which you take after that, and then the advanced higher. Now, this year saw the highest number of higher passes since 1999, and the highest number of advanced higher passes since that qualification began 20 years ago. Now, the Scottish Qualifications Authority said pass rates, they are higher than 2019, so pre-pandemic level, but they're slightly lower than they were last year. Now, National 5s, they are down from an 89% pass rate to just under 86%, and highers are down from just over 89% to just over 87%. 40%. Now in Scotland, there's a record number of A-grade passes this year for hires. This was 40% last year and up to 47.6% this year. Now, Scotland's Education Secretary Shirley-Ann Somerville said pupils had delivered a very strong set of results.
Thank you very much, Alexandra. And before that, Chris. And before Chris, it was Hal. A little later, we will talk live to the boss of UCAS, which oversees applications to UK universities. A woman from the US has filed a civil lawsuit in New York accusing Prince Andrew of sexual abuse. In a statement, Virginia Roberts Giuffre claims she was trafficked to the prince by the convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein when she was 17. The Duke of York has consistently denied the allegations. Our royal correspondent Nicholas Witchell reports.
Which of the people in this photograph is telling the truth? The man, Prince Andrew, who categorically denies any impropriety? Or the woman, Virginia Giuffre, who alleges she was sexually assaulted by him on 3 occasions? Ms. Giuffre has now filed a civil claim in a district court in New York. The claim states that when she was 17 years old, she was the victim of sex trafficking. 20 years ago, Prince Andrew's wealth, power, position and connections enabled him to abuse a frightened, vulnerable child with no one there to protect her. It is long past the time for him to be held to account. Prince Andrew has offered no comment to the filing of the court claim. His position remains as it was in his interview with Newsnight's Emily Maitlis in November 2019, when he denied any improper behaviour with Miss Giuffre, Virginia Roberts as she was then.
You can say categorically that you don't recall meeting Virginia Roberts, dining with her, dancing with her at Tramp, or going on to have sex with her in a bedroom in a house in Belgravia.
I can absolutely categorically tell you it never happened.
Do you recall any kind of sexual contact with Virginia Roberts then or any other time?
None whatsoever.
Ms. Giuffre's lawyers claim Andrew has failed to cooperate with the US authorities in their investigation into the activities of Andrew's friend Jeffrey Epstein, who, the court papers say, organised a sex trafficking network involving underage girls. Epstein took his own life in 2019. For his part, Prince Andrew has withdrawn from public life with the royal family. These latest developments suggest there can be little immediate prospect of him restoring his public reputation. Nicholas Witchell, BBC News.
British firefighters are among more than 1,000 from across Europe helping to battle wildfires on Greece's second largest island, Evia. Thousands of people have been evacuated since the blaze started a week ago. Meanwhile, in California, rescue workers are preparing for even higher temperatures as they tackle the second largest fire in the state's history. Lebu Dezeka reports.
The apocalyptic scenes of what the Greek Prime Minister has called a nightmarish summer. Nearly 600 fires have broken out across the country since late July, fuelled by strong winds and the worst heat wave in decades. The biggest is in Evia, an island northeast of Athens, which has been ablaze for a week. Help has been flown in by other countries, including British firefighters.
I haven't seen fires like this before in the UK. It's something that's completely new to me. I've seen grass fires and open area fires, but this is just on another scale. They're helping with manual tools, trying to put in fire breaks and stopping the fire from spreading.
There's been public anger at the government response, something the Greek Prime Minister has apologised for. But he said climate change is causing fires that last for weeks, speaking just hours after the UN warned that human activity is making extreme weather events more common, something locals say they're experiencing firsthand.
We didn't see any rain to stop this fire. I used to run in this forest, I used to cycle, we used to go for and collect fruits. Now everything is gone.
On the other side of the world in the US, California too is battling catastrophic blazes. The Dixie Fire started almost a month ago and is now the second largest wildfire in state history. With flames so ferocious they've destroyed nearly all of the historic town of Greenville.
Several times in the last week I've wished I could just go home. And then I remember, you can't go home, there's nothing to go back to.
Even if the house survived, like pretty much the rest of town is gone.
Surveying the damage, the state governor said the cause was clear.
The extreme weather conditions, extreme droughts are leading to extreme conditions and wildfire challenges, likes of which we've never seen in our history. And as a consequence, we need to acknowledge just straight up, these are climate-induced wildfires.
With more high temperatures expected in the coming days, the fear is that even more towns could be at risk. Lebutiseko, BBC News.
Former Conservative Prime Minister David Cameron personally promoted Greensill Capital to investors before the controversial company collapsed. BBC Panorama has discovered that Mr Cameron appeared alongside the company's founder, Lex Greensill, at an event hosted by the Swiss bank Credit Suisse back in June 2019. The collapse of Greensill has left investors facing billions of dollars of losses. Mr Cameron says there was no wrongdoing in any of the actions he took. Let's talk now to Andy Verity. We learned last night from you that David Cameron made around $10 million from Greensill. Now we learn he was personally promoting it. Tell us more.
Well, this meeting that you mentioned in June 2019, David Cameron appeared at a Credit Suisse event, as you said, with his friend and boss, Lex Greensill. Now, the event was called The Future of Supply Chain Finance, Victoria. The audience were Credit Suisse clients, wealthy investors looking for a good investment, a low-risk investment. At the time, Credit Suisse marketed supply chain finance funds which used investors' cash to buy Greensill investments. And investors were told by Credit Suisse that these funds were low risk and their money would be used by Greensill to make short-term loans to businesses backed up by invoices. And what Panorama's discovered is that at the time of Mr Cameron's appearance, Greensill was also using Credit Suisse investors' money to make longer-term, higher-risk loans that weren't actually backed up by invoices at all, and the investors had no idea.
And do you know what Mr Cameron said at that conference?
Well, it's not clear exactly what his words were, Victoria, at the Credit Suisse event, but his personal appearance will have lent credibility to both Greensill Capital and its investments. Over several years, Credit Suisse investors were persuaded to put more than $10 billion into Greensill investments, and they now expect to lose about $2.5 billion. Now, David Cameron's spokesman told Panorama he was neither a director of the company nor involved in its lending decisions, and to suggest that he would work for any company if he was aware it's behaving improperly or was in any way seeking to mislead investors. We also have a comment here from Lex Greensill, who denied misleading investors. He said his company made all the appropriate disclosures to Credit Suisse, and the Swiss bank was solely responsible for making any disclosures to their investors. Credit Suisse, for its part, says its focus is on returning cash to investors and that 59% of it has been returned so far, Victoria.
Andy Verity reporting. The time now is 60 minutes past 1, and our top story this lunchtime.
Oh my God, yeah!
Top grades for A-levels in England, Wales and Northern Ireland have reached a record high. Education Secretary Gavin Williamson says students deserve to be rewarded after more than a year of disruption. And Lionel Messi will join Paris Saint-Germain. He's on his way to the French capital right now.
Coming up on the BBC News channel, Olympic silver medalist Keely Hodgkinson, who broke Kelly Holmes' 26-year-old British record in the 800 metres, tells us she always knew she had what it takes to make the podium in Tokyo.
Scientists have begun trials of an artificial intelligence system that may be able to diagnose dementia in a day. Researchers at the Alan Turing Institute have told BBC News that their system could help spot the onset of dementia much earlier, which could improve outcomes for patients. Our science correspondent Palab Ghosh has this exclusive report.
Now careful over here.
Penelope Clark noticed that her husband Dennis began to forget things last year. They're concerned that he's developing some form of dementia.
Thanks for coming along today.
The couple are taking part in trials of a new system that will be able to tell not only whether Dennis has some form of dementia, but how quickly it's likely to develop.
Have you got any questions about it?
No, I think it's fantastic.
If you had a diagnosis that gave you some indication of the progression, would that be of help?
Well, then we could, plan financially as well as
a couple to be able to perhaps have a few holidays before things got bad. I couldn't take Dennis on holiday.
It makes me more comfortable because if you get a diagnosis, then you're not waiting months and months and months to someone to come back and say, well, we know what it is now.
Dennis's brain scan will be analysed by an artificial intelligence computer programme. It compares his scan with those of thousands of dementia patients. In preclinical tests, it's been able to diagnose dementia years before symptoms develop.
You have a diagnosis of dementia. That's a big thing to take on board. So, when I'm delivering this diagnosis, anything which I can do to be more confident about that, to give people more information, to help them plan their lives, is a great thing to be able to do.
And the new technique can give results much faster. Currently, it can take several scans and many other tests to find out whether someone has dementia. The new artificial intelligence system can potentially pick it up with just one scan, and it can pick it up much earlier in the progression of the disease. The researcher who led the development of the system believes that early and accurate diagnosis of dementia will make treatments much more effective.
The treatments can kick in early and slow down the progression, and at the same time avoid more damage happening to the brain. And it's likely that then symptoms might occur much later in life, or they may actually never occur.
Right, ready, steady, go. The system is currently being tested to see if it works just as well in a clinical setting as it has in the lab. If so, it'll make a big difference to Dennis and millions like him.
Well done, sir.
Palab Ghosh, BBC News, Cambridge.
Scores of Palestinian families have been told they must leave their homes in East Jerusalem, some of them by this weekend. Few expect the Israeli authorities, who say the families never had permission to build in the area, to force through eviction and demolition orders immediately. But people living in the Silwan area have told the BBC that the government is stepping up efforts to force them out of the disputed area. Jenny Hill reports from Jerusalem.
It's their own home, but they're tearing it down. Dangerous work. But the Dajani family told us they've no choice. The Israeli authorities say they built this illegally, so they and their house have to go.
As you can see, as a family, we're demolishing our house with our bare hands. It's not easy for anyone to knock down his house with his own hands.
But scores of people living in one part of East Jerusalem fear they'll have to do exactly that. Right outside the old city walls, the district of Silwan. 9 years ago, Mohammed built a home here for his family. But Israel says he and many of his Palestinian neighbours had no right to do so. He's been told to leave.
This is a holy, blessed land. We won't go. They're putting pressure on us to leave Silwan, but we'll stay until our last breath. Even if they demolish the house, I'll rent another one and I'll stay here in Jerusalem.
We're not telling scores of families that their houses are going to be knocked down. We're telling scores of families, here's where you can build, here's where you couldn't build. And you're right that many people built illegally because permits were very hard to get. That has changed. Rome wasn't built in a day. We are really narrowing the gaps.
This is a battle for sacred ground. A few Jewish families live among the Palestinians here, with security provided by the State of Israel.
The heart and soul of the Jewish people is here in Jerusalem.
This man wants to see more Jewish families moving into Silwan.
This is the synagogue we came in, of course.
His organisation recently claimed back this old synagogue complex.
The prophets spoke 2,000 years ago that we were going to come back here. Anyone who wants to live in the Jewish state for Jewish people, 100%. I said it before and I'll say it again. I'll put the blue and white carpet, I'll roll it out in front of them, with pleasure. But the second he wants to kill me, that type of Arab is not welcome in this Jewish homeland.
The dispute over this valley has been going on for decades, and in truth there's little hope of resolution. All the new Israeli government can do is try to stop it escalating into serious violence. The Dajani family worked through the night to destroy their house, in a city divided over how to build its future. Jenny Hill, BBC News, Jerusalem.
Here, the jury in the inquest of the Streatham attacker, Sudesh Aman, has been watching CCTV and police footage of his attack and the moment he was shot dead by armed surveillance officers. Aman stabbed 2 people on a busy high street 10 days after being released from a prison sentence for terrorism offences. James Reynolds has been following the hearing. James, what was shown this morning?
Victoria, plenty of footage collated from various shop fronts and body cams which show the minutes before Sudesh Aman carried out the attack and the attack itself. He's shown walking along Streatham High Road. At this point, there is an undercover police team monitoring his movements. He then goes into a low-price store. At this point, the footage very clearly shows one of the undercover officers walking slowly towards that store. He gets about a few steps away, and then the footage shows Sudesh Aman sprinting out of the store, going in the opposite direction. He goes on to stab those 2 bystanders, a woman and a man, who each survive, and then essentially a chase carries on down Streatham High Road. Sudesh Aman running away from 2 undercover officers who sprint past him. Footage from boots shows Sudesh Aman stopping and turning to face the officers, who are about 8 to 10 feet away from him. He has a knife in his right hand. He appears to lunge or at least move towards them. They open fire and he collapses and goes onto the ground motionless. At this point, the court has also heard testimony from another undercover officer who was in an unmarked BMW. He says, "I threw the log in the back of the car away as quickly as possible and tried to get away to the scene as quickly as possible." He drove up at speed to Streatham High Road, and then he says, "I drew my firearm and joined the other officers." There will be other testimony from the other officers, and the inquest itself continues.
James Reynolds reporting. Let's talk more about the main news today then, that more A grades have been awarded for A-levels this year after exams were cancelled for a second time because of the pandemic. Claire Marchant is the Chief Executive of UCAS, which, amongst other things, oversees applications to UK universities. Good afternoon, Ms Marchant.
Good afternoon.
What's going to be the impact then of students achieving many more top grades?
Well, certainly we know that those who've got a place at university, 91% of them have got their first choice, which is really to be celebrated, because these students have had a really torrid time over the last 18 months during the pandemic, and it's a testament to their hard work and the assessment by their teachers that they've got where they are. So we do know that universities will be super flexible, so that's evident in those that have got their first choice, and great news as they sort of go on to the next stage of life's journey.
So is it actually going to be a much smoother transition because so many students have achieved the grades they needed?
Yeah, I certainly think, a lot of students are waking up this morning knowing that they can enter university for their degree in September. There will be, and there is any year, cohorts of students who didn't get what they wanted. And, I would like to, reach out to them and say, we're all here to support you. There are many options for you. We have clearing. There are also many degree apprenticeships during the course of the year. So really just pause, reflect and think about what you want to do next.
OK, so if a student didn't achieve what they wanted to, what's the first thing they should do? Briefly, please.
So the first thing a student should do if they didn't achieve quite what they wanted, if it's just narrowly missed, certainly speak to the university. But we know there's nearly 30,000 courses in clearing from many, many institutions. So that's courses and many more places. So I would also encourage them to look into clearing, enrol for Clearing Plus, which is our new innovation last year, and also look on Career Finder, another UCAS service which gives you a great selection of both apprenticeships and jobs. So lots of options for you. Take some soundings from parents, guardians, friends, teachers, and give us a call at UCAS or contact us on social media if you need some further support.
Thank you very much. And for more on this year's exam results right across the country, including how grades have been decided, how to appeal if you want to, and loads of other questions, do go to the BBC News website at bbc.co.uk/news or the BBC News app. Lionel Messi is to undergo a medical at Paris Saint-Germain after agreeing a 2-year deal with the French club. The Argentina star was pictured in a private plane about to leave Barcelona for Paris. Messi confirmed his exit from Barcelona in a tearful farewell on Sunday after 21 years with the club. Katie Gornall reports.
For the first time in his career, Lionel Messi knew he would start the season somewhere other than Barcelona. But where he would go to next has been the subject of much talk. Fans of Paris Saint-Germain were confident their city was the most logical destination. Since yesterday, they've gathered at the Parc des Princes stadium, waiting. After all, PSG, a club backed by Qatari money, are one of the few that can afford a 34-year-old master like Messi. The record 6 times Ballon d'Or winner is set to play alongside Kylian Mbappe and his former Barca teammate Neymar in what will surely be the most fearsome attack in world football.
You know, you have to go to social media. The debate is already in the street. Mbappe, Neymar, Messi, the best trio ever in history. I say at the moment, perhaps Luis Suarez, Neymar and Messi at Barcelona, because they won everything that year. But quite close, those three now. But we'll see how far they can go.
Messi's numbers are staggering. In 778 games for Barca, he scored 672 goals, secured 10 league titles, and there could have been more. Messi never wanted to leave Barca. In a tearful press conference on Sunday, he said he was convinced he was going to stay in the city he calls home.
This is really difficult for me after so many years.
But the club, due to La Liga salary cap rules, could no longer afford to keep him. And so after 21 years, Messi's association with Barca is over. Now a new story will begin. Katie Gornall, BBC News.
Right, it's time for a look at the weather now. Here's Darren Bett.
Thank you. The weather is still looking quite messy through the rest of this week, but things are better today because the storm clouds have been pushing their way eastwards out into the North Sea. But if we look in the Atlantic, we've got this band of cloud here that will bring some rain in from the west tomorrow. But today, well, the sun is out across many parts of the country. We've got much drier weather around as well. The winds are quite light. It does feel a bit warmer too. We're not without one or two showers, though, across England and Wales, mainly focused towards the northeast of England. The bulk of the heavy and developing thundery showers will be in the northeast of Scotland. We've got more cloud coming into Northern Ireland. But ahead of that, cloud in the sunshine. Temperatures a little bit higher today, 20 in the central belt of Scotland, 23 are high across some eastern parts of England. Still a few sharp showers around, though, during this evening. They will push their way away, mind you. And then we look at all that cloud coming in from the Atlantic. Here it is overnight, thickening up in the west, bringing some rain into Northern Ireland by the end of the night. And temperatures similar to last night, around 11 to 13 degrees. Now, tomorrow could start quite bright with some sunshine across some eastern parts of the UK. This cloud, though, will work its way in from the west and it will bring with it a spell of rain. Now, it's moving a little bit more quickly now, so we'll see that rain pushing more readily eastwards into Scotland into the afternoon, even into eastern parts of Scotland, allowing some late sunshine to arrive in the afternoon across western parts of the country, but a cooler day in Scotland. For Northern Ireland, after some rain in the morning, we get some sunshine in the afternoon. That rain pushes into western parts of England and Wales, hitting the Pennines through the Midlands. Towards the southeast of England, it's still dry, increasing cloud, but still temperatures could reach 25 degrees for the first time this month, would you believe? Now, as we move our way into Thursday, this low pressure will bring some wet and windy weather in the northwest, and it pushes that weather front into England and Wales, initially bringing some rain. Most of that will have petered out by the time we get to Thursday. So not much rain on that weather front, that area of cloud there. Not moving very far, mind you. North of that, there'll be some sunshine. The winds pick up, blowing some showers into Northern Ireland and into western parts of Scotland, so it's a little bit cooler here. But ahead of that cloud and that weather front in the southeast and East Anglia, those temperatures could be nudging 24 or 25 degrees again. Then that weather front moves its way through. The low pressure still sitting towards more northern parts of the UK, where we've still got some fairly brisk winds as well. And most of the showers, I think, as we head into Friday, will be across Scotland, some for Northern Ireland for a while, and even some showers getting pushed into parts of England and Wales. We've got temperatures back down to nearer normal, I think, by Friday, around 19 to 22 Celsius.
Thanks, Darren. A reminder of our top story this lunchtime.
Oh my God, yeah!
Top grades for A-levels in England, Wales and Northern Ireland have reached a record high. That's all from the BBC News at 1. Have a good afternoon. And on BBC One, we now join the BBC's news teams where you are.